Good evening and welcome to our South Glengarry Council meeting this October 7th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Call to order. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that the October 7th, 2024 Council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened, and since it started at 7, but it says 7:01 now, I'm going to say 7 o'clock, so we're on time, is opened at 7 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. If I could please have everyone rise for the singing of our national anthem. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move to the approval of the agenda. Are there any amendments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are no amendments to the agenda.
And just in case, were there any, because I kind of forgot to say the consent agenda. Is there anybody who wanted to pull anything from the consent agenda that they forgot, myself included? 10C, if I could. Okay, we'll pull 10C. Is there any other items? Okay. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Sorry. Approval of the minutes. Were there any errors or omissions noted? Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meetings, including closed session minutes, be adopted as circulated. Previous meeting minutes, September 16th, 2024. Public meeting minutes, September 16th, 2024. All those in favor? Carried. Presentations and delegations. Whistle Sensation, Fifth Line Road, Julie Belleville. If you could please come to the blue lectern, and when you go to speak, just make sure you press the gray button and the red light will come on.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Julie Belfay. I live on 6010 Fifth Line Road in Banesville. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to respectfully request the Council's support in submitting a petition to Transport Canada to stop the train whistling at the public crossing on Fifth Line Road. This request is in line with the guidelines set out by Transport Canada, which state that municipalities are responsible for initiating such requests. I believe the current safety measures at the crossing light I believe the current safety measures at the crossing, lights, sound, and the barriers are more than adequate to ensure public safety. The crossing is located in a low traffic area with only approximately 5 homes in the immediate vicinity. The frequent train whistling has become a disturbance to the residents, and we believe it is unnecessary given the safety infrastructure in place. I would be happy to work with the council and any relevant departments to ensure that all steps are followed according to Transport Canada's requirements. Thank you for your time and consideration in this request.
Thank you. And just to set an expectation, no decisions will be made by us at this point, but it is a time for us to have questions and comments. Are there any questions or comments about this
Absolutely.
particular request? Oh, Councillor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have no problem supporting a petition if it's the request of the applicant and I guess the adjacent property owners. I know generally they look to us, or they generally request some kind of fencing. I know I've seen in other towns. I know Banesville's tried in the past, but I guess just to steady some expectations. But more than happy to support you if yourself and your neighbors are interested in that. But just it's just I don't see any issue. I was just looking to see if there were any farm crossings nearby where it might have a benefit, but I don't see any.
Thank you. Councillor Jaworski?
Yeah, no, I mean, I did not realize that this was something that the municipality would get involved with at all. So, I mean, I don't, and same as Councillor Maxwell, I don't have an issue of supporting the request if it's part of the process that they need our involvement, then I think it makes sense. And if it looks like there aren't any negative safety implications, then why not?
I'm just curious if, I know administration may have a comment on transportation side, but I know Councillor Bougie, I believe your term of council, or perhaps just before, there was whistle cessation. I believe there was studies in the amounts of near $30,000 to proceed with this, and ultimately they did not take it. I think that was in Banesville proper. Do you have any thoughts on that matter?
Well, I think this is a little different situation as where Banesville is a little more built up, more properties, more children. The proximity was fairly close. In the end, we did not approve. But basically for those reasons, the volume of people, and there was a whole other kind of criteria that we went through as well. In this looking Fifth Line Road, it doesn't seem like there's a house that close. Like, what would be the distance from your house to the track?
I kind of thought you'd ask that. I'm thinking maybe like 300 feet, 400 maybe?
But like fairly far away from the tracks, looking at the map. Like,
Fair
I feel my
enough.
house right now is closer to the tracks than Lancaster.
Fair
but
enough, yeah.
Obviously a different situation, but
Far enough, but still very loud. Like, I mean, we knew when we moved there, like, that there was a train there that went by, but there's no need for the whistle, honestly. Like, there's got the lights, the barriers. I can count, like, the cars that go by on our street per day. Like, there's barely any cars, like.
Okay, and I do appreciate you acknowledging that it is different than downtown Banesville, so that is fair. Ms. McDonald, did you have anything from transportation?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to walk council through the process that we would be following, so you understand what we're doing, and also note that we have a second petition that had come in previously, but it's still sitting on my desk, and it would be for County Road 27, so if council is considering this petition, then perhaps I can bundle them together for a staff report, even though the resident isn't here today to advocate for herself. So it would be looking at Fifth Line and County Road 27 with whistle cessation. So as we have, a citizen has expressed an interest. We consult as the municipality, if council desires, with the railway to see if it's feasible. And then we notify the public of our intent to pass a resolution for whistle cessation. And then we jointly with the rail company assess the crossing. And as Councillor Bougie and Mayor McDonald said, there was a whistle cessation study done across all of the municipal crossings in South Glengarry. I believe it was in 2010, and not much has changed since then, so we can lean heavily on that study, maybe updating it. And then if the municipality and the railway company both agree that the crossing requirements are met for reducing the whistle cessation, or reducing either the frequency of whistling or the whistling completely, then the municipality would press a resolution. The railway company would then confirm that the whistling is stopped, and there may be criteria that we would need to meet in terms of upgrading the crossing. When we look at the 2019 crossing grade standards that are put out by Transport Canada, this crossing does meet flashing lights, a bell, and gates. So, like, that's the minimum that would need to be there. But it's not a simple process. It is lengthy. It requires a lot of consultation with the rail company, and it would be, if we're looking at it for Fifth Line, we might as well do the whole process for County Road 27 administratively before the resolution and intent, the notice of intent is passed, if that makes sense. And hopefully that provides some clarification.
It does, and just before jumping into Councillor McDonnell, County Road 27 would be just south of Summerstown Station. So, and would that be a detour route for whenever 401 is down at that time? Would you go north there? Just because there could potentially be a high volume of traffic. So I would consider them somewhat different, but that's more for council to deliberate if it comes to it. But it's just something to consider. Councillor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess, based on Ms. McDonald's comments, I was under the impression, based on the initial presentation, just that it was the constituent would get a letter from us or a signature from the township that we'd be fine with it, and then they move on with it. Sounds like there's a lot more to it on our side, and maybe quite a bit of cost. So why don't we look at this and have the two cease requests come from Ms. McDonald with an estimation on what it's also going to cost us?
That is a fair question. Would that be a reasonable expectation? And always trying to pin down dates, you know me. What would be, like, as you said, it's a little bit of a process. When do you think a staff report? I do appreciate also that we're going into budget season shortly. That's why I kind of, what would be a reasonable amount of time, do you think, to come back to us with kind of like here's kind of the process in writing, and here is the amount that it would be?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I hesitate to give a date since I would want to just shoot the rail company a quick confirmation. I'm not sure how quickly they'll get back to us. So it would hinge on them, but on our side, the work was done in 2010. Like I said, not much has changed with the crossing itself. The grade standards were updated in 2019, so a bit of looking into that. Let's say the rail companies come back within like a 2-3 week time frame, then mid-November, first meeting of December.
Okay. So we will have a staff report come back with some of this information. We will get back to you at that point in time, whether a decision has been made or not, and that will come through administration. Did you have something you want to add? Or, okay, no, good. And I guess, yeah, we'll get back at that time. Again, subject to CN Rail. My experience professionally is sometimes they might not get back in a week or two. So we will do our best as soon as we get the information. But thank you very much for your delegation this
I
evening.
do have a petition as well that I had signed. I
Okay.
got signed from the neighbors. I'm just missing one person. I couldn't, he didn't answer the door, so I do have a petition, but I don't know if I should keep that or should give it to you, or,
Yes, please give it to our clerk.
yeah, okay,
I almost said Ms. LeBrun.
okay.
She hasn't been our clerk since 2018. Ms.
So you'll
Campos.
let me know, and I'll have to come back to another meeting then?
I suppose you don't have to come back, but
No, I
if you
can.
want to see it,
I
you
can
you can. We'll
absolutely
come
come
with a
back.
staff report and we'll debate it. Sometimes it's good to be there just to show presence, but
Absolutely.
yeah, we'll let you know when that staff report comes to
Okay.
council.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Moving on to action requests. Cornwall Golf and Country Club, request for retroactive rebate on utility account. Ms. McDonald. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-108 be received and that the council of the township of South Glengarry select one. It's either option one, authorizes rebates from the Glenwalter Water and Wastewater System of $5,573.63 to Cornwall Golf and Country Club, $4,852.74 to 1165608 Ontario Inc., Blue Anchor, $684.10 to Jill's Barber, $1,921.61 to Fred Can, Stinson. Or, option two, does not authorize the utility rebate requested by the Cornwall Golf and Country Club. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So the report before you this evening is in response to the request from the delegation excuse me, that was here at our last meeting, and the response had come in previously, as we heard from the delegation. So we haven't outright recommended, but we did provide sort of the framework for the history there. I think 2016, as had been previously laid out, does seem like a fair point, because that was a point when our councils decided to look at multi-rates consistently across both systems. But I think it is important to note that the systems ultimately aren't being treated the same. It is something that I did highlight we should be looking at reviewing when we do our financial plan for the water systems, because having something consistently in place would be helpful going forward as institutional memories might change, and understanding how we set the rates would be helpful for this instance.
Thank you. And just to be clear, just to be sure, so this is kind of what was previously administration had said. This is not giving the extra years, correct? Okay. Discussions from council? Councillor Jaworski?
No, thank you through you, Mayor McDonald. I mean, I think staff's logic in their recommendation seems to be sound.
And I will sometimes take some of my biases that I was the one that authored the previous report, so my opinion's not going to change on my own work. But it was a promise to these users that we would consider going back to the Flying J time. So I just want to be very transparent with that. Okay, with no other comments or questions, all those in favor of the motion is, option 1 would be to authorize the rebates back to 2016, but not to 2013 plus or minus. Or option 2, to not authorize the utility rebate. Are there any comments or motions to push one option?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Yeah, I'm good with option 1. I think it's good to go, I'm not going back to 2012. It's way too far, and I think it was discussed before that last time it was brought back. So we had kind of said we wanted to look at, our water rates a little more. I think that's been done, and I think it's kind of a shame we didn't get this done a little more timely, but move with option 1.
Okay, well then I see the head shakes for option 1, and I will apologize publicly because I think the last report I did in 2021 before leaving was, from the administrative side, was to get the water rate set, and then this was to be the next one, but I wasn't there. So Cornwall Golf and Country Club, my apologies to you publicly through YouTube. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-108 be received, and I'm just going to read option 1, and that the council of the township of South Glengarry select option 1. All those in favor? Carried. Bylaws. Appointment of Chief Administrative Officer, Ms. Campo, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-109 be received, and that bylaw 2024-61, being a bylaw to appoint James Fothrop as Chief Administrative, as Chief Administrative Officer for the Corporation of the Township of South Glengarry, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 7th day of October 2024. Ms. Campo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. This is a fairly straightforward bylaw, but perhaps you may want to take it as an opportunity to introduce and welcome our new CAO.
Nope, all those in favor of the motion. Deputy Mayor Lang will go, actually, no, I normally go that way. We'll go Councillor Bougie, Councillor McDonnell, Councillor Jaworski, then Deputy Mayor Lang.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and welcome, Jamie, to the team. We're very excited to have you on board, and looking forward to moving things along with you at the helm, and welcome.
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for coming and agreeing to come with us, Mr. Fothrop, and we're very excited to see how you move forward with us, and we have a lot of confidence in you, I think, and I think the community does as well, so look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Welcome, Jamie. It's great to have you on the team. Only hearing everyone is saying congratulations and how lucky we are. So I am looking forward to the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you, Jamie, welcome. And I think you're going to find this is a really nice community to work in, community that takes their community with a lot of pride, and we have great volunteers. You'll see a bunch of them back here right now. Most I think can't see everybody, but mostly from the Fair Board, I believe, but and involved in other things as well. The community, it's quite a community. You're going to enjoy it here.
I obviously agree with that. Every year at Volunteer Appreciation Night, I get to go into a big speech about it. But so I'll quickly say that I think last year I said your thoughts become your actions, etc., that eventually become your destiny, and it's because of the people in this community, past, present, and future, that make us the best municipality. And I harp on our United Church in Williamstown: step reverently, stranger, or draw near. you step on the vanguard of a nation, and I think that tradition carries through. You may have noted, if I can use a number one, is the city of Cornwall during the ICE event last year was costing $5,000 a day to clean up their branches. South Glengarry was free because we helped our neighbors, and I am just absolutely pleased with how that went, and as well as roads and fire and church groups and community groups such as the Fair Board. You are coming to a great community, and we're very happy to have you. I think our gain, unfortunately, comes at Cornwall's loss, so I do wish them great luck in replacing and being strong in that position, and simultaneously, I'm grateful for our opportunity. If you wish to say anything, please do.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very excited for the opportunity to be here. Thank you very much for the warm welcome from the council as well. The very warm welcome from staff and their patience as I try and find my feet into this new office, but very excited for the opportunity and looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Okay, so Jamie has graciously allowed me to steal a little moment to thank our outgoing acting Chief Administrative Officer, Dave Robertson, and we have a little gift for him. So if I can have Dave come up here as we give him a round of applause and thank him for his service to the community. So just a little backstory there. I was in Lancaster twice today, forgot to pick it up, so I asked Councillor Bouge, and he said which one to get, and I obviously have never touched alcohol in my life. So I texted Dave and said, what kind of scotch would be good for you for a recommendation? He said, do they like it peaty or oily? I'm like, I don't know. What's the recommendation that you think you'd like for a general drinker? And we didn't have Glen Winnie, but it's Glenlivet, so I hope that that suits your palate. And thank you for your time. And coming back to you, thank you for accepting our offer. All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. So the comment was just to limit my speeches, which is a fair one. We'll move to bylaw zoning bylaw amendment, Lerman Decor Incorporated. Ms. Haley, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-110 be received and that bylaw 2024-62, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 3809 to rezone the property legally described as part of lot 38 concession 7, being part 1 of registered plan 14 R724 and part 1 of registered plan 14 R1013 in the geographic township of Lancaster, now the township of South Glengarry, county of Glengarry, located at 4451 County Road 34, PIN 6714202245, from agriculture AG to rural exception 21 RU 21, to permit the following uses in addition to the permitted uses in the rural zone: warehouse distribution center, professional or business office, and retail store be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council the 7th day of October, 2024. Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to walk through this staff report and explain why we came to the recommendation we did. So you've already described where the location of the property is. The subject property is approximately 4.23 acres in size. And many of you may remember when this property was developed. It was developed for many, many years, and it had a few businesses, I understand, on the subject property. The most recent business being Lerman Decor, that was somewhat destroyed by fire and then demolished in early 2009, if I remember correctly. The applicant or the owner remained the same, and the owner wishes to return to this property and to construct a 40,000 square
Joanne,
foot.
sorry, point of order. I forgot to declare a conflict of interest on this. I'll step away from the table.
Sorry, I thought I did something wrong, so that's good, thank you. So the applicant is wishing to come back to the site to construct a 40,000 square foot warehouse to relocate his business here. And basically what his business is house decor, where they distribute and supply that decor to a variety of stores, department stores like a Walmart. So as I mentioned, it was historically constructed and used as a business. So what happened in recent years is the province changed the designation of that area to agriculture. So in 2009, when we were writing our new bylaw, it required us to place that property in a zone that was compatible with the official plan designation because it was undeveloped, it was vacant at that time. When the applicant came forward hoping to obtain a building permit, realized that the zoning was no longer in place, was forced to go back through this process. Luckily, with recent changes by the province in 2018, it brought this area into a rural designation that is supportive of warehousing type uses to be constructed. And so the site-specific amendment request that's before you this evening is to change the zoning to rural exception 21. And the reason for the exception 21 is to add a few uses. One would be the warehouse distribution that is the main part of the business, but also to allow for a professional and business office to be located in that warehouse and a retail store. The applicant intends to open a small retail space that would allow them to sell some of their wares or their discount wares to the public. And it would basically be hours that are operated during regular business hours. When reviewing this type of application, we're obligated to look at the Planning Act, the provincial policy statement, the official plan, our zoning bylaw, and in this case, D-Series environmental guidelines from the Ministry of Environment, Culture and Parks because of the type of use and the proximity to the housing. So that work has been completed, and you'll see in our staff report that we explain why this proposed use conforms to the applicable policies. We held a public meeting, and during that public meeting, we did have an individual come forward speaking in opposition to the amendment. And basically, that individual was concerned about traffic on the site, possible frequent speed, safety of children in the area. There was a variety of reasons listed in the applicant's wording, and we also included that in the staff report. We carefully considered those comments, and County Road 34 is a very busy road. It's a road that accommodates traffic between Highway 417 and Highway 401. And so having a use added to County Road 34 like this is not really going to have a negative impact to County Road 34. And as we mentioned, it was previously developed, so there's many people in the area that were used to that. We also worked with the United Counties of SD&G Transportation Department to see if they had any major concerns in regards to the site being redeveloped, where the entrance is and things like that. If the application this evening is approved, or the zoning amendment is approved, it would be subject to site plan control, whereby the county transportation department will have an opportunity to review the detailed design of that site plan. You'll see in the staff report that we're recommending this to be approved. As you know, we have to make decisions within 90 days, and tonight would be just day 48 if the decision is made. And we do recommend that council consider the recommendation brought forward by administration, and if it's approved, then we will move forward with issuing the notice of decision. So thank you very much, and I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Are there any questions of members of council? Councilor Jaworski?
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you, Ms. Haley. One question I had subsequent to some of the feedback from the public was with regards to a fence or fencing requirements for, if you could please refresh my memory, or if you looked into that matter any further, refresh my memory in terms of what would eventually be required or could be required as part of site plan control.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for that question. And actually, we did look into that further after your question during the public meeting. So the way the bylaw reads is when we have a proposed non-residential use abutting a residential use, a fence is required. And so in that case, we would, let's say there's an existing house, and then it's close by, and there's a proposed non-residential development. There's also wording in the bylaw that allows us to apply a fence if we want to based on the use. The house that's abutting the property to the south is not really close proximity to the property line. There's buffering areas, but that's something we can do through site plan control. And it's something that we've noted based on the comment that it came forward from the public meeting from yourself, and we'll work with the applicant. We're going to look to see exactly what the setbacks are, where the access will be. We don't have a draft site plan as of yet. Of course, the applicant's working through the process. I'm sure they weren't willing to invest a lot of money on the next engineering stages if they didn't get their approvals, but it is something that we will consider and determine the benefits. So in a case like this, we can be maybe more flexible with the type of fencing because it's not directly abutting, it's not really close by, but it's something we'll talk about and consider.
Any other comments? All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Moving into items for consideration. Procedural bylaw midterm review. Ms. Campo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. The purpose of this report this evening is for council to provide some feedback on certain provisions of the procedural bylaw. As council knows, the procedural bylaw is what governs our meetings. It sets out the framework for our meetings and basically the rules of procedure. And it's typically a good practice to review the procedural bylaw at least once during the council term. And the reason it's coming forward at this point in the term is we're almost at that halfway mark, believe it or not. So, you know, it's been about 2 years now we've been working with the current bylaw, and it's an opportunity to make some changes in this current term. So many of the amendments that are going to be coming forward are administrative in nature, you know, renumbering, moving things around. However, there are certain aspects where administration is seeking input from council as to what direction you might want to see this bylaw go in. And the sections that I'm bringing forward for some feedback are being brought forward because there's been some informal feedback received either from members of council individually or through discussion amongst administration. So Mr. Mayor, if it's okay with you, what I'm proposing or hoping to do is sort of provide some context or background around each section where I'm looking for some feedback, and then perhaps you could do a roundtable or council can provide their feedback on each item so that it can be incorporated into the revised bylaw.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. And just a reminder from the staff report that after we have these conversations, we'll give administration some direction. But after that, October 15th, we can still reach out, I think is the deadline you said, and then it'll be October 21st on the next agenda. So just keep that in mind that we're going to have some direction. But if you think about something in between, October 15th is your deadline to get it to administration for the 21st.
Yes, thank you. So a great point, Mr. Mayor. If you do have additional comments on anything that I have not included in this report, I do welcome any and all feedback, and the deadline that's provided in there is just so that that feedback can be incorporated into the bylaw in time for the agenda for the first and second reading. I do intend to bring this for a first and second and then a third and final so that if you have any additional revisions, there's time to do so. So if I jump into the first item seeking feedback on, it would be section 5.3 of the current bylaw, which speaks to the meeting time and frequency. So at present, our meetings take place on the first and third Monday of each month at 7 o'clock. Some members of council might recall there was a time when our meetings were on the second and fourth Monday of the month. And the reason why we changed it to the first and third was because our meetings, when they were on the second and fourth, were held on the same day as North Glengarry and City of Cornwall meetings. And council's idea at that time was if we changed our meetings, it would allow us the opportunity to attend our neighboring municipalities' meetings if something were to come up that was of interest and we wanted to have a presence at their meeting. That said, I'm not aware of any members of our council ever attending neighboring municipalities' meetings. Okay, so I'm sorry, Councillor McDonnell has attended. However, I don't think it's at a level of frequency that it would be conflicting if we were to switch back to the second and fourth. And the reason why that recommendation administratively is coming forward to go back to the second and fourth Mondays of the month is if you were to look at Appendix A to the report, I laid out what the schedule would look like a typical schedule for, say, in 2025. And you'll notice on the first and third Monday, we have several conflicts where we're deferring to a Tuesday due to meetings falling on civic holidays. several meetings conflict with conferences that council attends, so we've either had to postpone or cancel meetings. And so if you look at the second and fourth Monday, there's really, there's a meeting that would fall on the March break, which could be a conflict, and there's only one other date where there's a civic holiday. A third option that's outlined in the report is one where instead of going by a set, first and third or second and fourth, we instead do have a meeting every 3 weeks. So the schedule that's presented in the report shows what it would look like if we had a meeting on the second Monday of January and every 3 weeks thereafter. This results in some conflict as well as 7 fewer meetings in the calendar year. So on this item, it's administration's recommendation that we go back to the second and fourth Monday. There is a whole other set of options available as well in the appendix where if we were to move to a Tuesday meeting, and that came about as a user group was no longer using that time slot. However, since the authoring of this report, Ms. Harbers has advised me that there is a group who's interested in that Tuesday slot. So it'd really be council's prerogative, but those are some of the options that are available to you should you wish to change, or we can just stay the same on the first and third. The one other thing I'll note on this item as well is the start time for meetings. So presently we start at 7 p.m. and we typically hold public meetings at 6:30 before the meeting. Administration's recommending that we incorporate public meetings into the regular meeting agenda. So that would look like a 6:30 p.m. start, regardless of whether we have a public meeting or not. So if there's an application that comes up where we require a public meeting, it would just be incorporated into the regular meeting agenda so that we can start a little bit earlier, again, at council's will, because you're here at that time anyways, usually. So maybe I'll stop there for some input.
All right, Councillor Bougie, then Councillor McInnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Kelly, for the report. And I do remember when we didn't change because of the conflict with the city of Coral, North Glengarry. I think there was also the issue with news reporting is why we didn't change it. We had extra news reporting, having it the way we did. And it was a time where not everything was recorded. So you can't just go on YouTube or the internet to watch the meeting. So we actually had to physically be there unless you read the minutes. So, but I am in favor of moving it to the second and fourth Monday of each month, just because of the amount of conflicts. Like, we have 5 long weekends, usually the busiest weekends of our lives, especially, well, for me anyways. So moving it away from those dates would be beneficial, and I'm fine with the 6:30 start time as well. But I don't know, I like the second and fourth. 3 weeks I find might be a little bit too long in between, especially if we have some pressing issues. I mean, we can always do a special meeting, but I do still like the 2 meetings a month. So I would be in favor of that option, second and fourth. 6:30 starts, fine with me.
Okay, Councillor McInnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm fine with the proposed layout as well. I have no problem putting the public meetings in, especially if they're early in the meeting, so long as that's the case. Start time, I'm fine either way. If staff prefers that, I have no problem. Sometimes there's going to be days where I'll prefer it at 7 because I'm running late from somewhere or something, which is generally most weeks, but I'm fine regardless.
Okay, Councillor Jaworski.
Yeah, I'm fine with the second and fourth Mondays. I'm fine with the 6:30 start. I'm assuming, thank you, Councillor Bougie, for the context as to why it was moved around. That is helpful. And like you, those long weekends are also the busiest time of my life, so I am happy to avoid those. And I'm assuming too also for our county council members that this would make a less burdensome day at times, because I know in my time on county council, it seemed like our meetings in county council were always the same day, and it's a lot. Oh, always? Okay, well, but one item I wanted to mention is, because this idea of every third week was thrown out there, and I think it's too long. I think it's important for us to be together. I mean, certainly if there's an issue like for staff, if staff who don't have reports, I mean, maybe we should be more open to staff who don't have reports to not have to come to council meetings, that sort of thing, because I'm assuming that was more staff-driven. But one thing I was going to throw out is, you know, if on the items where there is a conflict and we're thinking about moving it to Tuesday, I mean, that might be an opportunity to skip that one and maybe just not have that one and not push it to a Tuesday, because that'd be like, but just throwing it out there as an idea.
Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Yeah, I'm good with, and earlier is fine too. You can go right to 6 o'clock if you want. And maybe it'll save a few of the real late ones we've had, but all right, no, I'm good with that. There's something else, I don't know if it's going to come up a little later, maybe when you're going to talk about electronic participation, but I would, at some point before we end this, I'd like to talk about a permanent council chamber.
All right, thank you. Would council oblige me a moment for my thoughts on this, as I'm kind of speaking from the podium? I think you do have, I'd like to, because I think I'm the big plugger of the every third week. So, and it came up through strat planning, and so thank you for seeing it through. So my thing on that one was, from a staff perspective, we'll give them direction tonight. We have, so that's, now tomorrow's Tuesday, they probably have things planned. They're working on it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then you have Monday, Tuesday, and that's when your reporting has to be. So you really only have 5 days to get reports. So I was thinking it'd be nice that way to get a little bit more work done. And then I read something recently, and I forget which corporation it is, but they have a weekly meeting. And when you sum up the amount of time preparing for a meeting for this corporate, not South Glengarry, but the one I read about, it was 300,000 hours preparing for a meeting. So to me, 7 meetings less means probably 280 hours more of productivity, which is something to think about, and maybe it wouldn't be there. Additionally, not just the people preparing for this meeting, but the staff that are not here that will watch the meeting. So that's 3 hours that many of your staff in the office are probably watching the meeting the next day. And if we have 7 here this evening and 13 at there, that's 13 times, say, 2 hours times however many meetings. So to me, it was trying to look at, like, if there's a way how to make it quicker, and then we can always call special meetings. But I'll stop there because I don't want to ramble too much on it. That was my thought. Was I do think we could get a lot more productivity. Like I'm thinking thousands of hours or hundreds of hours more. But that's just a guess. And I don't think the will of council, as Councillor McInerney said, we have quorum to get the second and fourth, 6:30 then. With the 6 p.m. start, just thinking about that, because I was also, committee of adjustment would then have to be at 5:30, which might be pushing those meetings, and that would probably be the reason, because I thought 6 as well, but in thinking about it, committee of adjustment might make it hard at 5:30 for some, including the committee members coming off work. Councillor McDonnell, did you have your hand up, or?
Just a comment, I guess. The reason I'm opposed to every 3 weeks is I see it as, well, you'll wind up with longer agendas, which, as we know, less effective decisions get made in long meetings. And my point too was just for Ms. Haley's portion of this, we go from making a decision tonight on day 48, was it, to 56. You know, it's just, there's timely things that need to be passed at a council meeting, and I think every 2 weeks is sufficient, I guess, for the public to maybe expect. I think 3 weeks is too long. Then you're pushing projects and building projects that are time sensitive. So that's my reasoning that way. I understand your staff point time, but I prefer to keep going the way we are in 2 weeks.
And I do think the majority of council does too. So I just wanted to share my point, because it's one I've thought about quite a bit, but you've also thought about the convenience of other ways. So we will then go, we're staying on Mondays. That was it. And we're going to go the 2nd and the 4th, and we're starting at 6:30. Okay, so those have been decided. We'll move back to Mrs. Campo.
Thank you. On to the next item. It would be what's presently section 13.3, which is the order of business for our agendas. I've made just a couple of recommendations for some changes, and a lot of these are based on observations from other municipalities, as well as just the general flow of our meetings. So I'll just quickly highlight the changes that I've proposed. One I've already mentioned is incorporating the public meeting in the regular agenda. The second being adding a section for key information reports. So at present, our information reports go in the consent agenda, and I guess sometimes the issue with that is unless a member of council pulls that report for discussion, it just gets passed with consent. And typically, when a staff member is providing an information report, or not typically, but often, they're looking for direction, such as the way I am this evening, and I preemptively put this report in items for consideration, but there isn't really a provision in our bylaw that, I guess, I shouldn't say allows for that, but it would just, in my professional opinion, it just makes things a little more clear-cut. There's an proposed addition of a section for board and committee updates. I know many of you sit on committees, boards where you're doing a lot of great work, and we don't really get to hear about that around the council table. So that was some feedback received from, I believe it was you, Mr. Mayor. And then the final one is just a section for notice of motions. So again, that would, at present, when we pull something from the consent agenda, say it's a resolution from another municipality and council wants to support it, at present we put it in items for consideration, but really we should have a separate section for those types of motions. So unless there are any other suggestions, or if you're opposed to any of the recommendations, I'm seeking your feedback on the new proposed order of business.
Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. I'm in favor of this. I just wanted to clarify board and committee updates, because I think it would be nice. I want to make sure that that includes like verbal update from like our county council members.
I think that was the intent of it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think we do a pretty good job of informing of each other, but we could always do better, and then codifying it so that we're also informing the community, I think it's just the bar is just a little bit higher for our communication that way. So SDNG counties would be something that's included, and I think that's the intention. Yep. Any others? Okay, thumbs up. So all that will be great. Ms. Campo?
Thank you. The final section where I'm looking for some feedback from council is with regards to electronic participation. So I will preface this portion of the discussion by saying there's no one more frustrated when we experience technological issues in meetings than myself and our deputy clerk, Ms. Dixon. And I know it's very frustrating for council as well when we run into those technological errors. So to provide some context, prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, our council meetings were all held in person. There was no electronic component to those meetings, so they were not recorded, they were not filmed, and there was not any electronic participation by way of Zoom or anything like that. However, as we all know, in 2020, the world was turned upside down, and that really changed. It not only changed the way we do things, but it changed the laws that govern meetings at the provincial level, and it opened up a venue for municipalities to incorporate electronic participation in their meetings. Technology is great when it works. Unfortunately, although we have this beautiful hall where we have our council meetings, not having a permanent council chambers presents challenges when it comes to technology. And just to give council some context, because I know sitting around the table you may not be aware of some of, when we have an issue with technology, what's really going on. And to be perfectly honest, it's not always the same problem twice. It could be a different problem every time, and we don't have on-site IT. So, for example, this hall is used by community groups, and for a time that resulted in our audio equipment sometimes not intentionally being tampered with, but it would cause some issues with the audio. Or if a cord gets pulled out of our video cameras, it could cause an issue with the stream. So, and of course, there's always user error. So that being said, I wanted to take this opportunity to allow council to provide some feedback on the live streaming of meetings and B, allowing for electronic participation. And what I mean by that is when we have someone come in via Zoom as either a participant or a delegate. So I think I will leave it there, and I will gladly receive your feedback. And please know, there's no offense taken. These are your meetings. It's council's meeting. So, you know, whatever venue you want to take moving forward, we will be happy to accommodate.
And the fickleness of electronics when adjusted, it can be frustrating. I've done it to a DJ one time, turned the music up. He did not appreciate it once, so I can only imagine a council meeting. Anyhow, before moving to Councillor McDonnell, sometimes I see Warden McDonald or Warden Fraser step first if they feel very passionate about an issue, so I'm going to get ahead of this one. I don't do it often, so if you'll allow me. So for me, electronic participation works if we don't have the live recording. It just makes it easy, like bringing somebody on Zoom. So like you have to kind of think, like there's many ways how to do it. So my ideal way would be from 1784 till 2020, we had council without videotaping. It worked very well. 2020, much like your work out from home policies, are mostly based on a global pandemic. We'll call it a worldwide emergency. That emergency has since subsided, but we've kept up with the technology. So I am, maybe not strongly, but I would lean to being perfectly okay with having meetings like we did pre-pandemic, which were not recorded in person. However, I think the live portion of it is where we struggle the most. So like maybe even recorded and watched after. And if I can go to my other point about just saving time, again, you probably have 13 people watching this recording the next day at work when their general managers can summarize it probably while they're sitting here and then send that out in 30 minutes. So I think, again, productivity-wise, not having it recorded can be great. And we are held to account even with every misspeak. And I'm going to use Deputy Mayor Lang's words, and if I use them out of context, please don't let me do that, because I'm not trying to do that. We have a lot of conversations where, you know, you want to put like a theory or a thought out there and just like, here's a thought. But if you're on camera, that thought might be an excellent idea to consider, but you're forever held to it because somebody can take it out of context. And I don't like that, because I do think whenever we're discussing ideas, particularly in committee of the whole meetings, like we do have to say things that might be not outrageous, but certainly we have to be comfortable having an opinion that maybe 99% of people don't like. So for me, that's my thoughts. I saw Councillor McDonnell's hands up first, and then I think we'll try and go Councillor Jaworski, because I think everybody's going to have a comment, Deputy Mayor Lang, and then Councillor Bougie. So Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not far off some of your sentiments on this. I have no interest in continuing to allow consultants or anybody presenting to council to come through Zoom. I'm willing to continue to allow members of council and maybe staff members to appear through Zoom. And I would agree. I think the live stream really kills us, because if we say we are having a meeting tonight and we all show up and for some reason our YouTube goes down or we can't go live, all of a sudden our meeting stops and we're all back here in 2 days to finish the meeting because we cannot go on and do it if we advertise it as a live stream video. If we want to provide the service of recording it, and if for some reason something happens and our recording is no good, we aren't held to that. We can, at least it doesn't go up, well, sorry, we recorded it, but you know, we had an issue with audio, or we had an issue with whatever the case may be, and that meeting doesn't get posted, we can put a post out on social media. And sorry, if you're looking for this meeting, if you really want to see it, you're going to come down and see it. If it means that much, we've got, 4 or 6 people here tonight in person to watch the meeting because it meant something important to them. They drove down here to show us that it meant something important to them. So they took the time, the rest of us and our staff drive down for these meetings. I have no problem doing away with the live stream. I do, however, I no longer travel that much for work, but I do for some members that do. It's something that when they signed on and ran this time for council, it was understood that that would be a potential option. And council has to remember too, I guess, that we're passionate about this position. We don't do it for the money or the fame of being on council in South Glengarry. We are able to miss a meeting if things do come up. People have lives too, so it's just something to remember. But I think we're all dedicated enough that we try to do our best to get here. But I don't think we need, we pay consultants enough. I know they say that, oh, well, they're going to factor it in anyways. They shouldn't be doing it online. I don't think we've had a consultant that's been able to come on online and do a proper presentation without some kind of issue where we get them rectified after 15 minutes, or we end up like our previous meeting calling them and saying, just do your presentation, we can hear you. You can't hear us, and we'll send our questions to you later and get them back after. It's just not efficient, and for the most part, it'd be nice to see them in person and be able to have a conversation ahead or after the meeting. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Okay, just because I pushed it one step further than the report. So you, like, recording is a firm yes for you, or would you be willing to?
I go either way. If council want, I don't mind people being able to go look back. It's nice for the media not have to be here in person, because it is cumbersome for them to drive here, or if there are 2 meetings on the same night, they can still get it. But at the same time, I don't want to see it as a mandatory thing that if we had something like, as it is right now with our streaming, if our streaming went down right now, meeting's done, we all go home. So I'd like it to continue, I guess, be able to continue if something happens with a recording issue.
Thank you, and I'll go to Councillor Jaworski because I feel like you're the strongest on this type of participation.
You're probably right. So I actually like it how it is now. Yes, it's annoying when things don't work properly, and I think I would like if we could maybe make a change it so that if we end up in some sort of irreparable situation that we can continue without having to stop and go back. But I mean, yeah, it sometimes doesn't work, but I know everyone's trying, and I really do think it's, you know, it's the best service. I mean, the best way to offer the service for the public. But I feel like I'm going to lose on that one. So then I will spend my energy advocating for continuing to record and posting them after, although I still prefer the first option. And I would want it to be posted as soon as possible. I have lots of folks reach out to me watching different portions of the meetings for issues that are important to them. I know there's lots of people who are passionate about issues who can't make council meetings because they have children or they're working or for many other reasons. And so being able to refer back to something online, I think is very helpful for them. It also helps, you know, explain decisions. It's countless times I've referred back to recordings of our meetings. I referred to recordings of other councils' meetings as well. And I'll often also use it in communication with residents when they have questions about decisions. I'll point them back to the recordings. I just think it's a really important piece of democracy and a record of what we're doing. And as Councillor McDonnell mentioned about the media being able to cover it, I mean, such as it is now, it's thinner than it's ever been. So I think it's not going to help us if we start making it even more difficult for those folks to try and get the message out of what they're doing. I do think there's passionate people for these different topics, and it's not an indication of their lack of passion that they're not able to make a meeting. In terms of restricting the electronic participation, I do very much appreciate Councillor McDonnell's acknowledgement that from some of us when we ran for council, we kind of had it in our minds that this was a possibility. For some of us, it would be potentially very difficult to continue being on council if there wasn't that option to participate electronically, although I've been thankful that in the last little while I haven't had to exercise it as often as maybe I have in the past. Just to comment on something you said, Mayor McDonald, about how a lot of this stuff happened in response to X, and now things are going back to how they were before. I'd say, like at my place of work, we're even more embedded in the virtual world in terms of conducting business than we were even during COVID. So, I mean, it's different places approach it differently, I suppose. I guess in terms of the consultants participating electronically, I mean, I do agree it's better if they're here. I do agree that it's better if they're here, but that has to be balanced to the cost of having them here. In terms of residents being able to participate electronically, I do feel that there are situations where it would make sense that there should be a provision that a resident should be able to participate electronically, whether it be an issue of sickness or some sort of emergency or caregiving situation. I think, again, for some of us, we're very fortunate. We have family, we have all these options to like help take the load, and for some other people, they don't have that. So I do think, and for accessibility as well, I think it's important to have that option, but perhaps we could be more, trying to, not selective, but, you know, that it's not just because you don't feel like being here, or, you know, it's that there's a, you know, the reason maybe is more compelling, perhaps. I'm not suggesting that we just do it any old time, but perhaps we need to be more discerning, maybe it is, when we allow electronic participation. So I think, did I cover all the points?
I think you did. You covered your strongest opinion, and you gave some 1A and 1B options, so appreciate your thoughtfulness with that. And yeah, Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Likely leaning a little more towards yourself, Mr. Mayor. I'm not necessarily saying we have to completely get rid of recording, but I do, and it was me that did say that, sometimes you want to throw an idea in a discussion that you may not 100% believe in, but you just want to throw the other side of the story and make people think about things. But it can be recorded, and they can say, oh, that's what he said, and it makes us choose our words maybe a little more carefully. Some of that might be good, but sometimes you don't get the full discussion you might have had the other way. As far as people that, like, if we pay somebody to make us to hire somebody to have us do a study on whatever it was their last week, you know, like, they can darn well show up and present that to us. And it should be part of the cost. We shouldn't pay travel or accommodations. It should be written in the thing that, you know, if you're bidding on this job, at the end of it, you are to present to council your findings. And that should be part of the thing. They can put it in their cost when they bid on it. We shouldn't have to pay them to come and show up. They should just do that. I would strongly want to get rid of those. Most of that is when our problems are. As far as Councillor Dworsky zooming in a few times, just so you know, like, Jenny watches almost all of them. She very seldom can hear you speak when you are coming. We can hear you, usually hear all right, but she said she turns the TV up to 100, she very seldom can hear anything you say. So you're still part of the meeting, but you're not maybe out there every time that you think you are, as far as what the public is hearing. So I think maybe we don't throw the whole thing out, but maybe there's a middle ground where we can kind of come to. But I'll go back to the permanent council chamber. It would solve some of the issues. Like, we have 4 cameras here, but they have to be dragged out every night of the meeting and plugged in. It's sensitive stuff. It doesn't want to be dragged around and rolled up and put in that closet, you know, and all the cords put in a, I think we throw them in a recycling box or whatever we do. If we had a permanent council chamber, and I don't know of any other municipality that doesn't, maybe there are a few in the province, but most do, and we had one, and it was a temporary thing. We needed an office renovation. We had outgrown that office, but at the time, it was not to move up here permanently. It was to renovate the office, get that done, and then, you know, in a future year or two, find a permanent home for council chambers. And I think there's options out there. I still think about the Celtic Music Hall of Fame, if it could be done. I mean, that was Charlottenburg's, and I think it could still host the people that are in there now. The Music Hall of Fame could still be in there. But it's, you know, it's just one thing. But I think we do need to look at something and come up with a plan in the near future. Because if it's going to take a year or two to do it, even if we come up with a plan today. So I'd like to see that happen. So as far as, I wouldn't throw the whole thing out, but I'd quit live streaming for sure. It seems to be a lot of our problem. We still record, but curtail it as much as possible.
Counselor Bougie?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in favor of electronic participation. I mean, we are very busy people, so if it needs to be done, I feel like that's a good option to have. I do agree with the consultant, kind of what was said around the table. It seemed like every time we had a consultant on, there was issues with audio delays, or it's just not the same when they're not in person presenting their findings. I definitely agree with that. In terms of setup, tear down, I mean, live right now, we have 4 people watching. So, I mean, one of them is probably Jenny. So whether it's live or not, I don't think live doesn't really, I think, is not a big thing, but as long as, I guess, it's recorded and there for anyone that wants to watch it later, I'm okay with that. Getting back to Deputy Mayor Lang's point about permanent council chambers, I 100% agree. I mean, this is supposed to be temporary. And I mean, we could rent this space out right now probably for a user group. So to me, I feel like that is somewhere we should go, and the amount of savings in the long run, not having to set this up, staff time, if it's permanent somewhere, you'd kind of get rid of those situations. So I would be favor of that as well. So I think I covered all the points there, Ms. Campo, so.
Counselor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to comment on Deputy Mayor Lang's point as well about permanent council chambers as opposed to the, I don't think many people realize too, it looks simple, like there's 3 tables, roll out a couple of TVs, but I think staff's here at about 3 o'clock at the very latest, setting up for our 5 o'clock meetings and 6 o'clock meetings for Committee of Adjustment. Be nice too, we're often, anytime we have a sensitive matter that comes to us and we want to come back maybe the next week to make a decision quick, and we call a special meeting, we have in the past kicked out user groups. In the summertime, we go online for 3 to 4 meetings, and I would really like to stop doing that. I'd like to also propose that we do not do virtual meetings in the summer. I know it's nice. I've done virtual meetings from cottage vacation, week vacation. In the past, I've either driven home or missed them. I would really like to see us go back to in-person meetings in the summertime. If we leave the virtual participation in there and somebody is, say, example, on a family vacation down east, they still can participate, but I don't necessarily say we kick the summer camp out in the next summer, but if we could hold those meetings just recorded or forego the recording for those 3 meetings, we could host them in Glenwalter at the Fire Hall in Williamstown, some other venue. I just do not feel we get a fulsome discussion when we're sitting on Zoom and we're all this big, so I'd very much appreciate to do away with virtual meetings as well, unless they're absolutely needed.
Okay, that's a good point to bring up then. So circling back, the permanent council chamber, that was Councillor Bougie and Deputy Mayor Lang kind of saying yes, or to move to perhaps, okay, yes. It's likely going to be the Celtic Hall. Get it done in this term, keep it nice to, everything has to be in a walkable distance of my house. Yeah, no, we should find the best spot, whatever that best spot is, all joking aside. Okay, so that would mean then Councillor Jaworski and myself for permanent council hall, that's already 3-4. Zoom consultants, I think there were 3 against. I was actually more in favor of virtual consultants still being there, but that one would be no virtual consultants, is the will of council. Looking at allowing council and staff on Zoom, that one is in favor. I think that was all across. Live streaming seems to be ending when that moment comes, but not recording. Sorry, but recording will still continue, despite, if I can do one last plea, our last 3 meetings have averaged near 100 people watching them, which I imagine a lot of that is our friends, family, and staff. That is less than 1% of the township. So we're doing this for less than 1% of the township. That's fair. And the news. And the news is important. So maybe the news indirectly reaches 1,000 people. So maybe we'll look at it that way. So I'm not changing anybody's opinion on the on recording. Okay, we can revisit. Okay, perfect. So then recording is still on. permanent council, and then Councillor McDonnell brought up no virtual summers, and we can, you are allowed to agree or disagree with him on this, so does anybody want to speak in favor of virtual summers? No. So yes, you can still participate. Councillor Jaworski.
Again, I don't mind the virtual summer meetings, but if we have a location to do them that is not currently being used, because I don't want to be kicking out the Boys and Girls Club, then I'm fine with that. I mean, I don't go on vacation, so I haven't in a long time, so it doesn't affect me that way.
All right, so perhaps may I propose then, sorry, Deputy Mayor Lang, thank you.
Yeah, I prefer no virtual meetings at all. The ones I like are when there's one issue, it's not a regular scheduled meeting, but we just come on, half an hour, it's addressed. That I don't mind, but to have a full council meeting virtual, I don't care for them. We got through COVID.
Okay, Councillor Bougie.
Yeah, I like that idea as well. And I mean, getting back to summer months, I do like Councillor McDonnell's idea. If, I mean, we're able to kind of move around to different fire halls or different community centers, just to make it more accessible for people in those communities, might be an option. Unless we get a permanent place, and then I'm okay with that too, but.
Okay, so then what I'm hearing is no more virtual summers. We'll have them in person. We will not displace the Boys and Girls Club. We can use other halls until another hall is permanently decided, and it looks like council's looking that a permanent hall is something that we would wish to see. I don't know if that will be 2025's budget, but I guess that's facility. It's kind of one of those like orphaned problems, right? Like who's going to do the research for for a virtual hall? I guess that kind of falls upon you potentially.
I will gladly research a permanent council chambers.
Okay, that's no longer an orphan problem. Okay, perfect. So the clerk's department will look into a permanent location. Do we have, we have a few locations obviously that we own that perhaps would be cost efficient. I appreciate that Deputy Mayor Lang has suggested the Celtic Hall only because I don't know if there's going to be any pushback, but I think it is a hall that we have.
But it's just the first thing that kind of came to mind, and I've been thinking about it for a little while, but I'm not saying there isn't other locations, I just throwing that out there. But I'm not looking to evict the Music Hall of Fame people. I think there's more than enough room. And they hold Kaylee's in there, and if we had a little bigger room for council chambers, it would be great for them, I think.
Yeah, win-win. Okay, so then has the direction for all those things being provided? Zoom consultants, no. Council and staff, remotely, yes. Live stream, gone. Recording, continue. Permanent council chambers, look into. And no more virtual summers. Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone, for your discussion on the matter.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you all for your input and feedback, and I will be bringing forward a revised bylaw for first and second reading, hopefully for the next meeting.
All right, we will look to then items for consideration, request Bayview Estate signage. Mrs. Compo, and I do appreciate, because this is one that came, oh, sorry. Okay. I do appreciate this, because this one came through me, but I didn't know how to bring it to council, so this is, I don't want to just force a decision on staff, so this is, I suppose, like an example of how we'll try to communicate, so I will let Mrs. Compo take it, because you've prepared the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. While I did author this report, it typically would not follow under my umbrella, so I may defer to some of my colleagues on if there are questions. But to provide council just with a quick overview, there was I guess a sign in Bayview Estates that was taken down due to damage, and that was like similar to a Hamlet sign. It said Bayview Estates, and there was a resident who was seeking to have that replaced. Now, that type of sign does not fall within our Hamlet sign policy as it's for a subdivision. However, there is a provision in our signage policy that if council is in favor of a sign that doesn't fall within the policy, we can work with a community for a sign that follows our graphics and formatting. So essentially, this report is just seeking whether or not council would like to replace said sign, which would come at a cost of about $2,500. Keeping in mind that we typically do not sign subdivisions And so, and I believe it's unclear whether this original sign was paid for by the township or if it was the developer who put it in. So I will leave it at that. However, if council has additional questions, I think Ms. Haley or Ms. McDonald may be better suited to answer them.
And again, thank you for this, because it was a comment that came to me, and I couldn't really answer it to the citizen, so I said, this is really a level of service. As small as that 2,000 is, it's still it's outside our policy. Councillor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to refer back to when we started the signs conversation, which is, I think, 2019. There was a list of the signs at that time that were slated for replacement or that were set to be done. And I know there's a few of them, and I'm going to sound selfish here because Bridgend was on that list, and I was told I'd get a Bridgend sign. I still haven't seen one. And it came back to my mind because I was driving down the South Branch today, and I saw Cash and Glen. And I went, I think we got more houses over in Bridgend. But anyways, I had the same question because I know there was a list, and there were a list of them, and I believe Bayview was on that list of signs slated for replacement that we were at the time, or were they not? Kelly's now changing me.
I don't believe that
Bayview
was
was
on
not.
it. no.
Okay, but it was, there was a list at one time that we had agreed to, the council of the day had agreed to, that we were supposed to be having made. Some of them have not been put up, some of them, a lot, 90% have, but I think there's a few outstanding, and I wasn't sure. So, no, I'm saying pre-Miss McDonald, like back.
Miss Baggs, right?
Yeah,
She was
Miss
one.
Baggs had that list, so I don't know if we have that list somewhere hiding that we could pull up and just maybe it comes as information report and review it at that point. As to this sign specifically, I'm not overly passionate either way. If there was a sign there before, if council wishes a replacement, I'll support them. If not, it won't hurt me.
And if I may, because I kind of brought this through administration to council, and thank you again, would be, it's just it's a sign that was there that wasn't. It's not a hamlet, it is a subdivision. We can get into the business of doing subdivisions. I'm not personally in favor of it, but it's not my decision to say, so I was looking for council's direction that way. I believe the city of Cornwall has removed some fairly big signs, so Mr. Fothrop, if you have some perspective on how that's done, because we have Place Saint-Laurent, which in replacement will be a $50,000 sign, and that's kind of the business we may not want to get into.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. In Cornwall, there are examples of subdivision signage that are put up typically by the developer, almost in a bit of a marketing effort for the sale of the lots. But inevitably, again, Place Saint-Laurent is a good example of a more extravagant subdivision marker that, when that does come due for replacement, it will come with a more expensive price tag. In Cornwall, some examples similar to that, when they are in need of repair and reinvestment, again, the developers that put them there in the first place are, not motivated or inclined to fund the replacement of them. And so what we've done, unless the neighborhood is willing to raise funds for the repair and replacements of those sort of subdivision markers, the city has elected to remove those subdivision signs when they're in a state of disrepair and needing replacement.
Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. And it's a good point, Mr. CEO. I would be in favor, if the community raises half, I'll match it. Or I vote to match it, my vote would be to match it. But if they're not, if it's one person wanting to sign up and the rest of them don't care enough to, put $20 in or $50 in, then I'm not too worried about it. I mean, it's all in Glen Walter, and we have signs for Glen Walter, so I don't know how small an area we get down to, I'm not sure.
Councillor Bougie?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, when you brought up the example of Place Saint-Laurent, it kind of scared me with the kind of price tag that would be. So for me, I mean, I don't think we get into this business. I feel like if the subdivision fundraises at all, go for it. But, or the developer kind of steps in. But to me, I would not be in favor of supporting it.
So in that regard, I don't know if Councillor Jaworski, it seems like there's, okay, then there seems to be enough to move no for this, and I will get back to that citizen. I won't put that on administration to get back, and I'll also say that I spoke against it, so I can own this one. Just one question with a comment Councillor McDonnell made. Bridge End, are we, I think, would there not be signs? Like, 'cause I do recall that advocation at one point, and I believe it is a hamlet or a settlement area too. I could be wrong. No? So it's not, there's no sign supposed to be there?
It was on the list, because I know I would not have supported it without it on the list selfishly, just to be blunt.
Go ahead. And maybe it's, yeah.
Oh, through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a recollection of seeing the bridge end sign, so I'm surprised. We'll look into it, and if we can just circle back administratively as to whether or not it's up, and if it's up in the right spot, or what happened with the sign.
It may potentially be the old, if it's one of the new signs, obviously it's a new one, but there was an old sign that was there that was removed, but we were kind of surprised, like, I just assumed the new one was going up, then the 6x6 posts were removed, so.
Okay, so if there is a roads patrol that goes by there and there's a sign, just take a picture, have an info report saying, I guess this one was missed for Councillor McDonnell. Oh, okay. All right, so that's discussed. We will say no, we're not changing our level of service on that one, and thank you for council for obliging that one. If anybody reaches out to you where they're asking for a change of, I would recommend using info report or items for consideration to bring it forward. That way we don't make promises as individuals. Not that we do it often, but sometimes it comes up. Now moving into consent agenda items. I believe mine was the only one that was to be pulled, so 10C, our RCA public consultation draft strategies. The reason I brought this up is because in reviewing this as a board member, there's a program called ALICE, the Alternative Land Use Somethings. and it allows for farmers to be compensated for riparian lands that aren't productive to them, so they will get like 150 or 200 depending on the value of the land. And please correct me if I err here. And sometimes it's not necessarily a reimbursement to them, but it can be shoreline stabilization. But in talking to the person who runs it, and then considering some of the people I talked to during the election, everybody said we want less trees cut, but we can agree that like people have property rights too. So the thought was, Alice would allow us to, if we put money in our budget to it, say like $10,000 or $20,000, or maybe less, or maybe none. But I just wanted to put this idea out there, is that we could get, they say 30 feet of, like say, critical riparian land, and compensate the farmer for that land, and slow the movement of water, or perhaps grow some biodiversity where it makes sense. Now, this would be farmer approved, so we wouldn't be forcing it on the farmer, and that was kind of one of those moments where like this could be a solution for, farm meets rural resident, but it was just that thought, and then I guess if there was any consideration at budget at that time, I might bring it up and we could say no then. I just wanted to prepare you for why I was thinking that. And it doesn't have to be yes, it was just a thought, because it's more of a carrot than a stick, and we always talk about cutting bylaws, or you hear those. But anyway, I'm rambling now. Thank you for that conversation. Consent agenda, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Carried. So we will be moving into closed session, and just to acknowledge the individuals here, we do have some members of the Williamstown Fair, or the St. Lawrence Valley Agricultural Society, who have lasted with us this whole meeting despite us going to closed session, probably for the matter that they have interest in. So thank you for your attendance and your time. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that council convene to closed session at 8:24 p.m. to discuss the following items under Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act SO 2001. 2, a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land, specifically potential disposition of land. K, a position plan procedure criteria or instruction to be applied to any negotiations, specifically instructions for negotiation. And E, litigation or potential litigation, specifically litigation update. All those in favor? Carried. We'll now go into closed session. I thank everybody watching online and those in the audience and staff who are leaving, and then we will return without reporting. Thank you. Okay, moved by Counselor McDonnell, seconded by Counselor Bougie. Be it resolved that the council rise and reconvene into open session at 10:01 PM without reporting. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Counselor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that administration be directed to carry out all actions as specified in the closed session minutes. All those in favor? Carried. Confirming bylaw, moved by Counselor Jaworski, seconded by Counselor McDonnell. Be it resolved that bylaw 2024-63, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, and third time passed, signed, and sealed in open council the 7th day of October, 2024. All those in favor? Carried. Adjournment. I didn't say what I was grateful for at the start of this meeting today. So I was reading some things on municipal world, and I'm glad that people don't light vans on fire in front of our city hall, because I saw that come through. And also, some municipalities in Ontario are now paying their councillors to have security at their house. So I'm blessed and grateful for the community that we have, that we don't have these problems. So adjournment, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the chair at 10:02 PM. All those in favor? Carried.